Happy Sunday, guys. So I don't go live on Instagram a lot. I usually go on Facebook. However, I think I'm going to start going live over here a lot more when it comes to homeschooling stuff. So we're going to talk about the 4 teaching styles and the curriculums that correspond with it. Kind of give you guys some tools on how to best pick the curriculums for your family. Hi, Miss Adams. When you guys are hopping on, go ahead and let me know in the comments if you are a homeschooler, if you're planning on homeschooling, or maybe you're just watching to show support. I know some people get on here, they're not actual homeschoolers. They're just kind of jumping on, and that's totally fine. So let me know in the comments if you are a homeschooler and maybe how many kids you're homeschooling so I can give you some real life tips as we go through this as well. Last week, we did talk about the 4 learning styles. So if you did not catch that video, I would highly recommend looking at it when we're done. Now, this week's topic actually has a corresponding blog post, and if you stay until the end, I've got a really cool freebie for you as well. So you don't need to take any notes. Everything is laid out for you and nice and easy to read bullet points. Everything I talk about, like the learning video, the learning styles video, and anything else I mention in here, including all of the curriculum options I'm going to go over, are linked on the blog post. So everything is right at your fingertips. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible. Whether you are a brand new homeschooler and you're not sure what is going to work for your family, or maybe you're seasoned and you've been doing this longer than I have, but you just don't know some of the new stuff that's out there. This is kind of be right split down the middle for both of y'all. In case you're new, or if you're watching this on YouTube and you're like, who the heck is this chick? My name is Tanya Johnson. I'm the founder of Helping Hearts Homeschool, where basically I just help parents and grandparents kind of navigate through the everything of homeschooling. Because homeschooling absolutely has some rainbow and sunshine sides to it, but then it also has some muddy sides to it. So we talk about the good, the bad, and ugly here on Helping Hearts Homeschool channel. All my socials are listed in the YouTube description, so go ahead and check out the YouTube corresponding to this. I'm just going to upload this on YouTube, put everything underneath. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out here on Instagram at Helping Hearts Homeschool. If you're watching the YouTube, look me up on Instagram. I love to answer questions, give you real life tips on your specific circumstances, and just really kind of connect with you guys here on this platform as well. So we're going to go over, the 4 teaching styles. And I want to break it down into the pros and cons, as well as what learning style that corresponds with, and then give you guys the curriculum or the different curriculums that go with that teaching style. So the first teaching style is just traditional textbook, and it pretty much is exactly what it sounds. It's the traditional, it's what most public schools use, open and go textbook style. And that corresponds the best with the reading, writing, and auditory learning styles. So reading and writing is technically one style, auditory is another style. So that's what it kind of corresponds with. So if your child fits into one of those 2 categories, then the traditional textbook would be a good fit for you. Now, hi, I'm a homeschool mom, just homeschooling 1 this year. That is awesome. I actually homeschool 1 as well. So that's a very fun stage to be in. It's also very tricky because they don't feed off of anybody. So I feel like there's pros and cons to only having 1 that you homeschool. What is your biggest obstacle when it comes to only homeschooling 1 that you've noticed so far? Because I always like to talk to other moms who are solo homeschoolers of just like the 1 child. Now, the traditional textbook, some of the curriculums that correspond with that are going to be Christian liberty, purposeful design, purposeful design. Try saying that 5 times fast. Apologia, Master Books, Alpha and Omega, and Bob Jones University. Now, some of these you're going to hear in more than 1 style because they cover more than 1 style. So keep that in mind as well. It's not like this curriculum is only with this style. Some of them are across a couple of them. And then the pros to traditional textbook teaching rather, is usually there's minimal prep. It's like a open and go curriculum. So you get a box, you open it, you have lesson plans, everything's laid out for the year. It's very like boom, boom, boom. You don't have a lot of prep work to do with it. Usually it's easy to stay on target with the public school standards as well, because again, it's kind of is in line with them. Now, the con is it usually focuses on short-term memory versus mastery. So again, this is why I say a lot of public schools, this is what the method that they use. I was considered a very smart kid in public school. I got lots of good grades. I'm going to go a little bit into my story during one of the points today. However, I can tell you very little that I still remember. For example, I remember in 7th grade taking New Mexico history. One of our assignments was memorizing all of the cities in our state. Every single city. I could rattle them off. I could tell you history about everything. I don't remember any of them. My husband asked me the other day, he goes, "Oh, this city in New Mexico, have you ever been to it?" I was like, "I haven't ever even heard of it." I guarantee I memorized it at one point, but I don't remember it. Probably keeping her on track and focused. I also have a toddler and baby who can be a little distracting. Okay, I totally understand that. At one point, I was homeschooling 5 to 7 kids at a time, and one of them was not really old enough to be in school, and then a couple of them were just really little. So it has challenges. I totally understand that. If you want to send me a message, I think I did do a video on how to homeschool and keep your toddlers busy at the same time. I think I did. If you want to shoot me a message after this video is done, or if you want to write my name down, because once the video is done, your comment will go away on Instagram, so I won't be able to see it. And just remind me, and I will look that video up for you sometime in the next day or two, because I think it has some good tips that might help you keep them busy without her getting distracted. Or him, actually. I don't know if you said her or him. Her. Okay. Her. So, number 1 is traditional textbook. Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Number 2 is the Charlotte Mason style. Style is the word I'm looking for, y'all. I don't know why I've got some brain fog this afternoon. Y'all ever get brain fog and you're like, there's no rhyme or reason for it. I got plenty of sleep. I'm well rested. I'm hydrated. But I have some major brain fog today. The Charlotte Mason, also known as living books or nature study, that is very much geared towards auditory because there's a lot of read-alouds in it. Visual because you can do diagrams and charts, and kinesthetic because there's a whole lot of hands-on. So the Charlotte Mason style actually works for a lot of kids. Now, if you have a kid who just likes to sit and read and answer questions and that's how they best learn, Charlotte Mason probably is not your best bet. But honestly, most kids don't learn like that, so Charlotte Mason is typically pretty good across the board. Now, the curriculum with that would be simply Charlotte Mason, Apologia, Master Books, and then a lady by the name of Jean Benedict. This is not a curriculum, but she authored a lot of living books. So she's someone that's really worth looking up on Amazon and finding some of her books. And again, do not worry about writing any of these down. Everything is linked in the blog post. And I'm going to link that for y'all in my stories about 30 minutes after this video is done. I've just got to download it and upload it and put it on the blog. The blog's already made. It just needs to have the video attached. So keep that in mind. It will be up for y'all definitely by the end of the night. It should be within about 30 minutes. So you can go get all the bullet points and stuff there. Not have to worry about keeping up with my fast self, because I talk very, very, very fast. Again, from New Mexico. I think that's just a trait that we have over there. The pros of the Charlotte Mason style is it teaches a lot of life skills. They focus heavy on the life skills, actually. And then it is easy to do. Hey, babe. Do you need something? Okay. I'm sitting in the bedroom because this is where I do a lot of my work from. So it is easy to do multiple kids at once because you can do a lot of science and history and that kind of stuff. You're all doing the same lesson, and it might just be broken down to where if you're studying geology, for example, maybe your toddlers or preschoolers or kindergartners are doing some kind of a little rock scavenger hunt, or maybe they're doing a coloring page. Maybe your older kids are doing a little bit more of a research paper or something like that. You're all studying the same concept, but you have it broken down to a little bit different assignments. The cons are the cost. Typically, a Charlotte Mason is very, very expensive. Now, not maybe in money, but it could be time-wise, it's very expensive. So you're either spending a lot of time or a lot of money when it comes to preparing to do a Charlotte Mason style study. There's not much structure. It's kind of up to you to do the lesson plans. It's definitely not an open and go curriculum. Usually people that do Charlotte Mason, they do very loose on the curriculum, so a lot of it is very parent-led, which means you have to be incredibly disciplined to make it work for your family and have your kids actually thrive in life, not just in school, but just in general, thrive and actually do school and keep on top of it. I like a lot of their style, but again, it does not work for every single family, so you can kind of gauge if it's something that would work for you. Now, I do want to give you a little backstory on her, because when I first heard Charlotte Mason, I was like, what the heck is that? Like, that doesn't even sound like a style of teaching. Charlotte Mason was actually a British educator. So this is a woman that created this style. And she was an educator from the late 1800s to early 1900s. So she believed that education was more than just short-term memory, sitting down and like doing school. She believed that education was a lot more about learning life skills. So budgeting, cooking, running a family, like skill sets, if that makes sense. And I love that. I think that that is a very good thing to start teaching your kids. So I don't disagree with her at all on that. And then she basically believed that you should be teaching them things to help them grow up and be productive citizens. And yeah, like I said, she just believed in creating like a learning environment versus sitting down and quote unquote doing school. Living books are literally just books that are written by somebody who are very passionate about the topic, or they're written from a hands-on perspective, like they lived it and wrote about it versus just researching a topic and writing a book. And then nature study, because again, nature study, living books, Charlotte Mason, they all kind of like go under one umbrella. Nature study would be like, instead of studying just science, for example, like general science, you would study botany or zoology or astrology or geology, and you would do lots and lots of hands-on things. And then you would do like dissecting animals. For example, if you're doing, what would that fall under? Probably biology, right? I don't know. I'm not to the point where we're dissecting anything. My kid's a second grader. When I taught in the public school, I did English. We did not dissect anything. So I think that's under biology. But what you would do is order like a biology kit and actually dissect the stuff versus just reading about it in a book. Or you find stuff in your backyard and you kind of do it with that. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm an Amazon mom. I'm not a Pinterest mom. I'm not a Charlotte Mason mom. I'm an Amazon mom. So I order the stuff off the internet. I definitely do not go hunt for it in my backyard. We do a lot of nature study, but it's fabricated. Meaning I buy nature at the store. For example, we did a geology unit, and if you go look at the corresponding blog post later on, I put pictures up because I found them of my daughter doing this because it was so cute. She absolutely loved it. So we finished the geology unit, and I knew I wanted to do a rock hunt. And so what I did is I ordered a cool little geology set off of Amazon. They had a lot of rocks. They had all the different kinds of rocks. They had like a sheet where you could categorize them, which ones were which. And there was just a lot of really cool hands-on things. I invited a friend over to do school with us for the day because I thought it'd be a fun thing to end the school day with, a rock scavenger hunt. So I left them at home, walked around the block, and I hid. Like, I just left a trail of rocks all around the block, hoping no one was going to pick them up. It was like a random Monday or Tuesday afternoon. I didn't figure anyone was going to pick them up, but I was definitely hoping. And then we went out with her little basket and her friend's little basket, and we hunted for the rocks. Now, she thought it was amazing. Her friend, who was like a year older than her, was like, Tanya, I think it looks like someone just like put these rocks out here. Like, this rock's hot pink. I don't really know why this rock is just in the middle of the road, or the middle of the sidewalk rather. I was like, no, they're just down there. They're just out there. And then her mom texted me later. She's like, yeah, Maddie knows that you bought those rocks from somewhere. Like, they didn't just find them. I was like, oh, trust me, I know. She is like so smart. My kid, however, was having a blast finding all these cool rocks around our neighborhood, around a path that we walked every single day, and she never found the cool rocks. And that day, they just happened to be really cool rocks out there. So, again, fabricated, but it was awesome, and she learned a lot of new things about rocks. Another example of a Charlotte Mason style teaching would be lots of cooking and baking, and again, life skills together. So, textbook, Charlotte Mason, and number 3 is classical. Classical studies, this is great for if you have reading and writing kids or auditory. If you haven't watched the 4 learning stages, like I said, they are linked in the blog post as well. Learning styles, not learning stages. Classical, let me flip my page over here. The curriculum that goes with classical is going to be Memoria Press and Classic Academia Press, or Academic Press. So those are really the 2 main ones that go with classical. Now, the pros to classical is science and history typically correlate. So for example, if you're learning basic astronomy, you're also learning in history about the Renaissance period, because the study of astrology came about, or astronomy, not astrology, the study of astronomy came about during the Renaissance era. So you kind of correlate the 2, which I think is really cool. And then another pro is it focuses on academic rigor. So it is very, very academically challenging and advanced. Now the cons, it's extremely teacher intensive. There typically are very long school days, just like if you sent your kid to school, except when you send your kid to a public school or a Christian school or a private school or whatever, they're at school for what? 8 hours a day? But they're not doing school the whole 8 hours a day. With classical education, you very well could be doing 6 to 8 hours of actual studying in like school. A con to this style is it's very academically challenging. And I know I said that as a pro. It depends on your kid. Not every kid is going to thrive with a academic path that is quite so rigorous. And I'll be honest, my kid would not thrive during that. Now, I would have. I did as a child. That is something immediately when I saw this one, I was like, oh, that's the style I'm going to teach. That makes so much sense to me. Because what they do is during the classical style, they focus on the 3 learning stages. So typically, your elementary years, especially the early elementary years up until like 3rd, 4th grade, they focus on grammar. So when your kid is that little, they're like a sponge when it comes to knowledge, or when it comes to information. So during the early years, they naturally memorize facts. So you are doing a lot of memorization and recitation. Repeat after me. Memorize it and tell it to me. So it's very boom, boom, boom. And that makes sense in my brain. Because again, if you did not watch the learning styles video, I'm very much a reading and writing kind of kid. I'm not a kid anymore, but that's how I learn the best. So this goes perfect with the way that my brain learns. The second stage of learning is typically upper elementary, and sometimes all the way through middle school, sometimes just part of the way. It really depends on your kid. Every kid's a little bit different. But you focus on logic, because at this point, your brain has developed enough to think through cause and effect, think ahead to, okay, if this, and this happens, what's going to be the end result? So you're really focused on teaching in a way where logic is getting lots and lots of practice. And then the third stage is going to be upper middle school, all of high school, and that's going to be focused on rhetoric. So this is where kids are really able to communicate what they believe, and they can turn around and teach you what they just absorbed or what they just read. So when it comes to the rhetoric stage, the younger side of that, so the rest of middle school and maybe the first year or so of high school, is going to really be, not the younger stage, that stage is going to be focused on them doing a lot of research papers, doing a lot of writing, and then learning stuff and doing like presentations and speeches and teaching it back to you. So again, my brain is like, ooh, that is so smart. Like, I love it. It's so organized. And that's actually one of the pros. It's very, very organized. Now, this is where, when you're going through the teaching styles, you have to be very smart as a parent to not go with the style that you are most comfortable teaching and that you learn the best in, unless your kid also learns that way. Most of the time, the parent and the kid don't learn the same way. And that's exactly me and my daughter. Like I said, I tell you a little bit of story. This is where the story time comes in. So first off, if you have heard one that you are naturally drawn to, drop me in the comments which one it was, because I'm curious. And then tell me, is it the same one that your kid learns the best in? And if you haven't watched the learning styles video yet, that's fine. Just let me know which one you gravitate towards so far. Some people are naturally very, very book smart. It does not mean they're smarter than anybody else. They just happen to retain knowledge very well. Most of the time that's short term. Sometimes it's long term. In my case, it's short term. I had, I think it's going as I'm getting older, but I had a very, very good memory once upon a time. So I was able to absorb stuff much quicker than a lot of people just by doing the reading and like answering questions style of things. Just to refresh my story a little bit, you can hear the whole thing back in the learning styles video. Classical, I'm the same. It makes more sense to me. It does not work for my daughter. Exactly. And you're smart enough to realize that, which is awesome. I dropped out of school in 7th grade. I am one of 5 kids. My dad died when I was very young. My mom was sick. I dropped out of school and I pretty much immediately went to work full time. Now, I did homeschool, but it was like just to keep the welfare coming because you had to go to school. So otherwise my mom would have lost a chunk for me not going to school. I literally copied the answers from one book to another. Now, I think I'm 33 now. Pretty sure my mom can't get in trouble for that anymore because it was a long time ago, so I think we're good. But that was one reason I was super, super anti-homeschool as well. I was never going to homeschool my kid. Y'all that know my story, I accidentally started homeschooling her, like I didn't have another option, and I completely fell in love with it. It was only supposed to be done for 1 year. That was it. And now, it's been 4 and we're still going strong. So, but what happened is I did have every intention of doing the work when we enrolled in this homeschool program. I will say that. And my mom had every intention as well. But I had 2 full-time jobs. I was 14 and a half. So I didn't make the time to do school. But I do love learning. I love learning through notes. I love learning through books. I love things to be very, very organized. So what happened is when I was 16, like 16 and a half, a lady at my church told me, like, you need to go get your GED. Like, she knew, you ain't doing school. Go get your GED. You need to go to college. And I was like, I might as well. So I literally took a week off of work. I went and checked out a GED book from the library, because again, only went through 7th grade. I don't know how to pass this dang test. I read it and studied it cover to cover. I went and took the GED, having a whopping 7th grade education, and I scored in the top 10 percentile in the entire nation, not in my state, out of everybody who has ever taken it. And all I did was study the book. Now, you asked me today half the stuff that was covered on that test, and I would not know it. Because I'm not any smarter than anybody else. I just had a very good memory, and that happened to be the learning style that I learned best in, was me doing it independently on my own, reading and writing. Now, all that to say, my daughter's not like that. She's kinesthetic. She's very hands-on. She learns better through experience. I learn better through textbook. We can go somewhere. We can go on a field trip or go anywhere, and she will come to me afterwards and rattle off all these facts that she learned. I couldn't tell you anything. Like, it was a cool experience, but it really wasn't educational. It was just a fun time being here. My brain doesn't work like that. Her brain does work like that. I don't remember what it was now, but this morning, she starts rattling off some facts, and I was like, oh, like, I didn't teach you this. I don't know where the heck you learned that from. Oh, remember, Grandma took me to the zoo when you guys went to Florida. This was like a year ago, and I guess she picked up some fact about some random animal while she was there. And she still remembers it. So, in my book, that's a win. If she can remember things through experience, or learn things through experience, and remember them 6-8 months later, in my book, that's better than being able to sit and retain something for a week or 2 and then not know it at all 2 months later. So, I love that she learns like that, but it was a struggle for me to learn to teach her like that because it's not normal to me. Now, so again, all that to say, when you're looking at curriculum, you want to make sure that you're picking the one that your child learns best through and matches up with their learning language, even if it doesn't match with your teaching style that you prefer to teach or the style that you prefer to learn in. Because at the end of the day, it's 100% about your kids. Now, number 4 is unit studies, and this is where my freebie comes in. I have a really awesome unit study planner for you guys. It's linked in the blog. Like, I'm excited about this. This is what I use to plan out our unit studies, and unit studies is fun. Unit studies is really about teaching as many subjects as you can under the umbrella of one topic. So, for example, it's like super child focused. And I'll give you an example in a minute. I do want to keep my little train of thought going that I've been doing. The curriculum for this would be Layers of Learning, which does all the work for you. You're literally ordering a unit study, and it's all planned out already. Or GeoMatters. GeoMatters is also really good. The pro is that it's fun. It's very child-led. So, in other words, you might be learning about volcanoes. That might be your unit study, might be on volcanoes. And something pops up in your child's head about, oh, Mom, didn't dinosaurs live by the volcanoes? I like dinosaurs. And then you can go on a rabbit trail and do a mini unit study within your unit study about dinosaurs. So they kind of just build upon each other. And I'm going to show you how it works in a minute. Because when I first heard unit studies, I was like, how the heck do you count that as school? But it does make sense, and it is like a legit teaching style. You can do a bunch of kids at once. So another pro to that. And then the disadvantage is there's a lot of hands-on preparation. It's going to cost you a lot of time or money, maybe both. And then it is harder to track. Again, it's not very organized. You are doing a lot of the work, a lot of the planning. So it is something that you've got to be very disciplined to make it work for your family. It is very led towards kinesthetic learning. However, you can honestly make it led through any learning because you're the one in control. So if your kid's more reading and writing, make sure you got more worksheets in there. Maybe you're teaching 6 kids at once and you've got all spread out. In my learning video, I talk about how most of the time, if you have multiple kids, they all learn on different styles. So you really have to tailor it to them. So maybe you have a reading and writing, a kinesthetic, and a visual learner. And you're learning about volcanoes. So one of the assignments would be doing some kind of a research paper or maybe copy work if your kids are younger about a volcano fact. And yes, they would all do it even though that's not their learning style. It might resonate more with one kid that way, but the other 2 are still getting practice learning in a style that's not necessarily theirs. And then for the visual side, maybe you create a volcano. That's pretty cool. Actually, kinesthetic, I guess, would be that side as well. We actually just did this. We created a volcano. We also made an art project for a volcano. And visual could just be something as cool as watching a YouTube video on the volcanoes. So, and again, all your kids do it at once, even if it's not their specific learning style. So they're getting introduced to other learning styles because as an adult, they're going to have to learn how to learn through all of them. But as a kid, it is important to tailor it to them as much as you can. So that way they absorb as much knowledge as they can. When you're home with them doing homeschooling, you have the privilege to spend a lot of one-on-one time making sure they're learning how to love learning and how to actually retain the knowledge. So to give you an example, let's say your kid loves birds. So you're going to do a unit study on birds. And again, the whole goal is to teach as many subjects around that topic. So let's say for science, you're going to study the anatomy of birds. You're going to study how they build nests, and you're going to study their migration flight pattern, I think is what it's called. I am not a bird person. For art, maybe you're going to build some nests and paint some birdhouses. That sounds like a super fun hands-on project. History, you're going to study some history of some biographies of famous bird watchers. You can get some worksheets printed out. Maybe you're reading through the biography and you've got a bingo card you made up that your kids are playing bingo, and when they hear certain words that you're reading from the book, they get to cross off squares. We just did this with another book. Maybe you're studying the history of bird watching. Like, how did bird watching become a thing? Because I'm not going to lie, I don't know why people do it. But I have a really good friend who does bird watching, and she loves it. She has her little books. She'll sit out and just watch birds for hours. So, different strokes for different folks. Y'all do what you do, right? Geography, maybe you're going to study maps of migration, and you're going to study the differences between different bird species and what their migration pattern and flight is compared to the other ones. Language arts, maybe the younger kids would be doing copy work, memorizing some cute little poems, maybe creating a lap book to go along with it. And then the older kids may be doing research papers, doing a speech on their favorite bird, maybe making, y'all ever go to science fair as a kid where they have like the big boards and they have like a research paper, but it's like pinned up on there, and then they have like a cool little experiment to go with it? You could absolutely do that. I don't really know. If you have ideas, put them in the thing. I don't know what kind of like science experiment would go along with birds. But you could absolutely do like a little art exhibit with it. What's up, kiddo? You're done laying out all your stuff? No, you can't watch, but you can definitely play for a little bit. I'll get the suitcases after this. We are leaving for a week tomorrow, so she is getting all her packing done in between churches today. Vocabulary, obviously you'd be learning words relating to birds, right? Like learning about birds, learning about bird words. And math is more of an application. So math, usually you're figuring a way to incorporate math with this topic. So with this, maybe you could take flight distances of different birds and say, okay, I don't know anything about birds, so I may say a bird that doesn't even fly. I don't know anything about birds. Maybe you're taking robins and sparrows, and you're saying, okay, robins migrate this many miles in the south or every winter or whatever, where sparrows do this many miles. And then you're going to make a word problem up with it for little kids. How many more miles do sparrows migrate than robins, right? If you take robins' migration and sparrows' migration and add them together, what's the total? Like very, very simple. And then you can make it as complicated as you need to with older kids. You can also, like I just said, comparing the different flight patterns. Maybe you tell your child, if it's an older one, well, sorry guys, I feel like this would be fun. Say, okay, we're going to find out how long it takes for a sparrow to do their migration every winter. So it's up to your child to go to the internet, because that's the day and age that we live in, right? Find out, first off, what is the migration flight pattern for a sparrow? How many miles does that mean they're going to travel? How many miles per hour can they travel? So then how much time does it usually take for their normal flight pattern? So something like that. Let's see. So those are the 4 teaching styles. Now I'm going to give you number 5. I know, I said there's 4. There is 4. However, number 5 is called eclectic because it's kind of a mix of all of them. Here's what's going to happen. Some of y'all are going to look through this list and you're going to find the teaching style that matches perfectly with your child's learning style, and you're going to run with it, and you're going to have the best homeschool year you've ever had in your entire homeschool history. The rest of you are going to be like me, and your child is not going to fit 100% into one category. The teaching style is not going to 100% work for your family. So you're going to take what you love from each of them, mix it all together in a nice big pot, and that's going to be your homeschool. And that's what we do. Excuse me. I should have brought my water in here, and I didn't. Anytime I talk a lot, I start coughing. Now, here's what we used. And on the blog post, I did link everything we used for kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade. What we do is handwriting. We do some like odds and ends books. For reading, we did Hooked on Phonics. We absolutely love it. There's a video review up on the blog that you're welcome to watch when you go over to this episode. Then the majority of the subjects, we do Evan Moore. Now, we didn't always, but Evan Moore does a great job of mixing all the learning styles as well as all the teaching styles. The only thing they lack would be living books. We have not done any living books. I don't know if they're going to fit into our journey, but they do a lot of Charlotte Mason style teaching. And they have a good mix of auditory, fill-in-the-blank worksheets, the read-alouds, art projects, hands-on experiments. And then I do supplement with more hands-on experiments because my daughter is kinesthetic. So you could decide for your homeschool and your family, do you want more supplement with them. Amazon's an amazing tool. So right now we're also going through a book, I think it's called My 50 States, and we're doing a state at a time. We're doing a state board. We're doing recipes from that state. So I'm taking the very basic textbook and turning it into my own mini unit study, and we're going to be doing that for a couple of years until we're all done with all the states, along with our regular geography curriculum. So fun. A lot of these states we're also going and visiting, so she's getting to see hands-on, and again, just a lot of fun. So here is what you want to ask yourself in order to pick a curriculum that works the best for you. What's your child's learning style? And if you know your child's learning style, drop it down in the comments. If you don't, or maybe you don't even know what a learning style is, as soon as the blog post is up, so if you're watching this on YouTube, the blog post is up and it's linked in the description. If you're watching it live, again, give me about 30 minutes. It'll all be up in my stories. Go watch that video and figure out what your child's learning style is before you buy any more curriculum. How many kids do you have? Because you are going to teach differently if you have 7 or 8 kids than if you have 1. Again, I've done both sides of the spectrum. There's definitely a difference. There's pros and cons to both. How much time do you have? I work 100% from home. So while I have the flexibility, I have to create the time when it comes to a lot of the hands-on homeschool. So you either have to be willing to sacrifice a lot of time, or you have to go with a little bit more of an open and go curriculum. I chose to make a little bit more time in my schedule, but if your kid is not kinesthetic and they are reading and writing, you can get away with spending a little less time and doing a few less, I think is how you say it, hands-on projects. How much money do you have? Chances are you're going to have to spend time or money. Not going to lie to y'all, I made it to where I make enough money from home to where I compensate for the lack of time with money. So for example, instead of making a really cool hands-on project from Pinterest and getting all the supplies myself and putting it all, together, I just order a $20 kit on Amazon. It saves me a couple of hours. So there's not a right or a wrong way, but you've got to be real with yourself. How much time, how much money. And by the way, one thing I do is teach homeschool moms how to get paid for homeschooling. So if that's something that you're interested in, check the link in the blog post. You're not joining an MLM, you're not joining any kind of company, but it is something that every homeschool mom is absolutely able to do. And you're already at home doing most of the stuff anyways with your own kids. So why not turn around and make an income from it? With all that said, I hope you all found a lot of value in this. If you did, please let me know in the comment section what your favorite takeaway was, or if you have any questions, anything more clarified. Again, all the description and everything will be linked on the corresponding YouTube and in my stories for the next 24 hours. And until next time, this is Tanya reporting to you live from the homeschool trenches. See y'all later.